welcome to my channel, Pod Popper's Place. I am sharing with you today a couple different designs for some Happy Barkday cards featuring little puppies and balloons in a different couple sets from a different couple companies. As I blend the ink on my cardstock, I didn't really want to get a full coverage. I wanted to leave some of that white background so that it looks more like a cloudy day or a cloudy sky. So I used a brush rather than the round disc blending tools because the brush doesn't go on as hard. It's a softer look. And then I'm using a paw print stencil. I believe it's from Tailored Expressions, and I'm using some very old ink from Stampin' Up. It is the pigment ink, so it takes a little while to dry, but I like how smooth it goes on. I don't have any Distress Oxide ink, so I'm wondering if it's the similar pigment ink like that. I don't even know, but I really wanted just a really soft, subtle paw print background, and I'm making quite a few different cards. These are for a friend who wanted some birthday cards to actually give to some puppies, not just people. So it was fun to design these for her. I'm using this die set from Tailored Expressions that has this tree, and then it has a bunch of extra little pieces in it that you can put around the tree. You can hang things from it. So I have baby clothes and welcome baby sign and a hammock and all different kind of fun little pieces to go with it. So I'm using, let's see, the die set for the sun is from MFT Stamps, and I just wanted to add a little bit of extra shine to the rays. It's hard to tell on camera, but it did actually add some yellow and orange, a little bit brighter to the paper. And I already colored around the tree just with my Spectrum Noir pens. I colored around the bottom of it in green so that when I put the leaf part on, which I'm going to pop up on foam tape, you won't see any of the craft paper underneath. And that's just really thin craft paper. It's I wanted it to be really lightweight because it's just a base for everything else, and I didn't want to add too much thickness with that. On the tree coverings, I colored in the little area that the die cut out, and just wanted to add some color so that it actually looks separate leaves. And I go over it with another Spectrum Noir pen, but it must have been too light because once it dries, it's just, you really can't even tell that I did anything. So if I did it over again, I think I would change up how I handled the leaves, and then I just go around the edge and kind of try to highlight that a little bit so you can kind of see it separate from the rest of the tree. Not really sure if it added what I was hoping it would add, but let's live and learn with these crafts, right? When I added the ink at the bottom of the tree top, I really thought it would dry differently and not be so obvious of a line. I just wanted a little bit darker shading, and I should have blended it in more, but I didn't notice that it didn't really blend in like I thought it would. And on the grass, which is another Tailored Expressions die that I absolutely love, it's one of my commonly used pieces. I just went down and did a lot of flick lines to give the grass like more dimension and just make it a little bit more realistic looking. So and I did a better job kind of blending the ink on that once everything dries, and that's the thing about the Spectrum Noir anyway. I don't have a lot of Copics, but it just you don't really know what it's going to look like until all the ink actually dries. And So as I glue the base on, of course I mess it up and I get globs of glue everywhere. And, you know, I thought, oh, it'll just wipe off. No, it didn't just wipe off. It ruined my ink, especially where the paw prints were, and it just left a mess. So I come back and I figure out how to clean that up later. And then I pop up the tree branches and on some foam tape, and I tuck the sun in behind the tree. So this puppy is from a set from MFT Stamps, and I wasn't really sure how to color him, but I wanted his nose to kind of stand out more because it kind of got hidden there, I feel like, on his face with the dark colors. And so I used my sparkle pen and added some sparkle to his nose. And if I had it to do over again, I don't know if I would use that exact pen, but I did want some shine, so maybe just some glossy accents would have been better. Or maybe just using lighter colors on the puppy so his nose would stand out better. But he's a cute little dog. It's a cute little set. And the balloons are just a balloon punch. I mean, everybody has some balloons. And so I cut some thin twine, and I'm just going to tie on, to make little knots and tie those on to the balloons. And for some reason, I have to have strings with balloons. I can't use them on my cards without having some kind of string attached to it. So I really like this little thin twine. It works really well. It's thick enough to work with, but not so thick that it like bunches up and becomes too obnoxious for the card size and everything. And I just wrap it around the ends there, and then I use a little bit of my Zig 2A glue on it just to kind of seal that. It helps to hold a little tie in place because I don't knot the tie. I just tie it once, and then that glue, once it dries, it just is good at holding it in place. And I always have at least 2 balloons usually, but on one of the other cards I just use 1. Obviously things in 3s or odd numbers and stuff are great, but this card was just already so busy and had so much on it. 3 balloons just would have been taking up so much room. So for some reason I popped the yellow balloon up on double the foam tape. I'm not really sure why I did that. I think I thought I needed to because the trees were popped up, but it worked out okay. It didn't look like it was too big or too thick. So, and then I just used some of the glue from the Zig on the mouth of the puppy to put the balloon ties kind of held in his mouth. And I have to kind of, hold it down a little bit and keep it there, but once it dries, it actually held really well. So I just didn't want to use like liquid glue, too much liquid glue there, because it creates a mess. And then other kinds of glue would probably show. It is a little shiny, but actually to me, I just thought it helped define where his mouth is supposed to be. And then I used the Jelly Roll pen to put some highlights on the balloons, and I thought about putting highlights on the puppy, but I wasn't sure where to put those, and I didn't want to make a mistake with it, so I just left it alone. Sometimes I feel like I try to do overkill on things and it doesn't work out. So, and I try to use some ink to fix that glue mess from earlier, and yeah, that didn't work. So I stare at the card for a while, and you can see my fingers are just, that's my fingers thinking. My fingers are thinking for me, what am I going to do about that? And I love VersaFine ink to stamp sentiments. It just seems to give a nice clear impression. Excuse my head. And I just did it right on the card on that one. There's another example where I put it on top of a die cut piece because it was to fix another mistake. The Happy Barkday was stamped sideways a little bit, and so I had to cover that up. So a lot of things I add to my cards are because I have to cover up mistakes. So I mount this card on a black base. I just, you'll see at the end that I also did one on a white base, and I didn't like it just didn't stand out as much. The black really helped it pop. The trouble with black, of course, is that the inside then has to have another piece of cardstock inside so that your sentiment inside can be read and people can write in the inside and actually see it. And I'm struggling here figuring out, what do I put there? I like the butterfly. The butterfly's cute, but gosh, it's big and it's kind of a weird placement above the balloons there. So I stamped the butterfly, I stamped some little clouds that come with a set, and then I stamped some little hearts. And so I don't know, trying to figure out what's going to work there. I feel like the card has enough on it that I didn't want to add too much. So I color the hearts with just a Stampin' Up pen. The noirs would have just bled and made a mess. So I like the Stampin' Up pens here because they don't bleed and they just give a nice clean look. And I really like the real red color. It's just a true red. I color the butterfly and the clouds too, but I don't end up using those because they were too big and it was just a weird spot for it. I hate when I have to fix things, and it takes me a while to figure out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to fix this? And but the hearts end up working and they actually look really cute, and it doesn't actually look like a mistake. So that was good. So thank you so much for watching today. I enjoyed making these cards, and there's several different variations of the card I made. I used a different set of puppy stamps. I ended up using the butterfly. I used a different tree from MFT with just the branch and leaves. I added a bird and just one balloon instead of two. And then I also didn't do a lot of the coloring that I had done on the other one. So just some fun variations, and I enjoy making different cards, the same card, different ways.